Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Real Brave Lessons Online here. We've got Nick live with us in studio, out of studio, live virtually, and he's going to be talking about the fourth installment in our free guitar series that he's working on with us. Okay. So the free guitar series starring Nick here on the Facebook and Real Brave and Practice Pad. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm starting to speak. It's just my first day of speaking with my new mouth. So I'm just gonna keep this in here because I think this is it's humorous. And the floor is yours. Here you go.
Alrighty. Well, hi everyone. So we're back today with the fourth installment of this free guitar lesson series. If you like what you see. Don't forget to check out practicepad.com, practice-pad.com. I actually got a new laptop this week, and none of my autofills were in, and it took me a solid 20 minutes to remember that there's a dash between practice and pads, and I could not get on to teach my lessons for a while.
That's good.
Memory. But anyway, so what are we talking about today? We're gonna kind of delve into a sound world that I would argue is like the bread and butter of the guitar. And we've touched on it a little bit in the lessons that we've done so far, mostly just because almost everything or a lot of things on guitar will make use of this world. And basically what it is, it's the open E minor sound. Like, you might hear this. That sound is probably a little familiar. And what it is, it's a scale called the pentatonic scale. We're not going to talk so much about the actual scale itself today. We will get to that in maybe another couple lessons. The thing that I want to stress is that the reason this specific key and the specific scale and the chords that go along with it are so popular on guitar mainly is because it uses all the open strings. Open string, open string. Note when you're playing, don't ever actually take your hand that far off the guitar. I'm just trying to do that so you can see where the open strings are, but it lays really well on the neck of the guitar. For whatever reason, the design of this instrument just makes that super playable and sound really awesome. And yeah, as I said, it's kind of the bread and butter of the guitar because it has a lot to do with where this instrument started, or really the music that was being played on this instrument in this country, in the United States of America, as the instrument rose to popularity. Obviously, in other countries, other parts of the world, there's a whole other history with the guitar, but we're going to focus on America today. One of the first popular styles of music that used this instrument was early blues. It's pioneered by some people that you can and very much should Google. Robert Johnson, Ethel Waters, a woman named Gertrude Ma Rainey, Son House, S-O-N House, who is a favorite of mine and not a building. He was a person. And yeah, this is the music that, you might hear like that kind of sound. And you might associate this with electric sounds from the 60s, music that your dad listens to. Where it started though was on acoustic guitars in old bars in the early 1900s. And it was music about freedom and about individuality. The first blues recording was Mamie Smith's version of Perry Bradford's Crazy Blues in 1920. It sold 75,000 copies. which for a recording made in 1920 is like astronomical. It was a revolutionary thing. Yeah, slavery ended. By the way, obviously this music, if you've taken the time to Google it, you will pretty quickly see was pioneered entirely by Black American musicians. Slavery, as you probably know, ended in 1865. And the styles of Black music in America that were popular during slavery were spirituals and work songs. But the blues became the most popular style immediately after slavery. There's a great quote that, as I was preparing today's lesson, I remembered reading in a book that I read a couple of years ago by Angela Davis. The book is called Blues, Legacies, and Black Feminism. And the quote explains what I'm trying to say probably better than I ever could, which is slave music, both religious and secular, was quintessentially collective music. It was collectively performed, and it gave expression to the community's yearning for freedom. The blues, on the other hand, the predominant post-slavery African-American musical form, articulated a new valuation of individual and emotional needs and desires. The music was presented by individuals singing alone, accompanying themselves on such instruments such as the banjo or the guitar. The blues therefore marked the advent of a pop culture of performance, with the borders of performer and audience becoming increasingly differentiated. So what is this saying, and why am I talking about it? When I hear this, I hear her talking about the story of Black America reclaiming their individuality. And what was one of their most important tools? The guitar. This is what allowed a person to stand up on a stage and perform to people instead of performing just with them, and to actually make a spectacle out of themselves and deliver some kind of message about whatever they thought was worth delivering a message about. Yes, B.B. King, great example of that. I would even go further. I would say that the blues was the beginning of American music. When we talk about Black American music, we're not just talking about Black American music, we're talking about American music, because the blues led directly to both jazz and rock and roll, which is pretty tied up in just the fabric of American culture, that if you're watching this, probably in America, but also if not, I'm sure you've heard American music, is probably pretty tied up in who you are. Elvis, Miles Davis, Louis Armstrong, the Beatles, you know, these are names that are just household names and tied up in what people think about this country. I would hope it's the best of this country. Both these styles, jazz and rock and roll, entertained America. Supergroups from the 20th century that anyone that's listening, I'm sure, has heard of: Beatles, Jackson 5, all trace their sound back to the blues. Funk, hip hop, the songs that we've learned so far: Truth Hurts by Lizzo, Levitating by Dua Lipa, Bodak Yellow by Cardi B, all of that, and this is very important, you can tie directly back to the music that Angela Davis is talking about. Also John Lennon. We don't quite have time to say more than that. We would probably need a year of a music history class, which I would very much like to do at some point. But for now, I encourage you to read more about this, or just take my word for it. Why am I talking about this? Mainly because I think if you've taken 3 guitar lessons, even online ones, you should know what the blues is, because it's just incredibly important to what this instrument is. You should know that it's important to American history. And you should know that it uses a lot of this open E minor position. And you should probably know, yes, a little bit about what that is. So to pull this back to something a little more digestible and, you know, something that we can actually tackle in the next few minutes, we're going to take a look at one of my favorite songs of all time by one of my favorite artists of all time, named Bill Withers. The song is called Grandma's Hands, and we can go ahead and put that chart up on the screen now. So this song sits in the key of E minor. We have already learned this one version of E minor, so we're going to keep using that. But if you go ahead and look up the song on Google, on YouTube, you'll hear that something going on with the E minor. And what's happening is he's doing this. So what he's doing is he's strumming the E minor twice, and then with his middle finger, he's putting it on the second fret of the G string. And if you look at the little chart that I wrote for E minor that's up on the screen right now, you'll see there's a note in parentheses, and that is the note that I am talking about. So 2 strums of your normal E minor, 1 of these, and then back to normal E minor. So what you can do is you can take a second to practice that really slowly. Just don't worry about the rhythm. And these can all be down strums. Just. And as you're practicing this, don't be afraid to look down at your picking hand and also at your, I'll call this the neck hand for now. If you want, this would be a good time to either pause the video and practice this yourself, or just play along with me doing this. There's the top. I'm going to do it one more time. So that sound is the bulk of the song. That E minor with the kind of, let's call it E minor with a twist for now. I'm not going to bog you down with the actual technical names for it because you don't really need to know that just yet. The other 2 chords are both new. We haven't actually done them, but I think they'll be pretty simple. The first one I want to look at is the B7. And again, this is a very, this is like a little mini version of the chord. That would be the full chord. But like the E minor scale, we're going to save that for a couple lessons down. For now, you can really convey the same feeling and the same sound with just these 3 notes. And yeah, if you're looking at the chart, it's the middle one on that page. It says B7 on it. And you've got your, I would say your second finger can go on the second fret of the G string. And like we talked about with some other chords, you really, 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 really want to make sure that it's arched and nice, like on the tip of your finger. That way, you can get the next note, which is your open B string. I'm reminding you to arch your finger because if you don't, if your finger's kind of fallen down, it's going to bump into the B string and get that thuddy sound. Then you'll just have this, which is not nearly as good as that, I would argue. So remember, relax your wrists, sit up nice and straight. You want to think there's like a string at the top of your head that's going up to the ceiling. And meanwhile, there is a very gentle string at your elbow and maybe even your wrist too, that's bringing you back down to the floor. So it's stretching you from your arm all the way through your head. And then the last note of the chord with your third finger is on the second fret of the E string. And all you do is just play them together. And that is your B7 chord. And the third chord in the song, final chord, is your A7. And that's going to sound a little weird on its own. It's kind of nasty. In context, it sounds much better, but I also kind of like these sounds. This one is going to have your open G string, and then second fret on your B string. I would use your second finger, middle finger for that again. And then third fret on your E string. So I'm going to come and give you a close-up of, here's your A7. And then here's your B7. So you can try and watch the motion that I'm making. A7, B7. And this is a nice motion because all it's doing is you're moving your second finger over one and then just sliding your third finger up. So here's B7 again. And we're just going to sit with these two chords for a minute or two, or maybe not quite 2 minutes, but and while I'm going back and forth between these two, I'm thinking in my head about the beat. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. We talked about this last week a little bit. 3, 4. Incidentally, this tempo that I have is just the very loud sound of my clock. This is the second hand of my clock that I'm playing with right now. And like I said before, you can look at your neck hand a little bit and make sure that your wrist is looking good. Mine's actually kind of tensing up a little bit because I wasn't paying attention. Make sure that that motion is looking nice and calm. And take a look down at your picking hand, check in there. And this is what you do when you're practicing. You just want to keep checking in on all the different parts of your body that are working together to make this sound. 2 and 3. My picking's looking good. 2, 3. Am I sitting up straight? Could be sitting up a little straighter. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2 and 3, 4. Cool. One thing in this song especially, for all these chords, you want to make sure that you're strumming them really, really gently. If you look this song up and take a listen to it and really like try to key into the sound that he's using, it's all just like, it's incredibly delicate. So you don't really want to be coming out of the gate like, it's not really the kind of song that this is. It's really just getting like a nice tone out of the guitar. Yeah, so now we've got all of the chords, all 3 of them, 3.5 if you count this little extra sound that we have for the E minor. So let's get the chart back up on the screen. Awesome. So let's look at the part above the chords themselves down at the bottom of the page. So this says E minor, and then it has some other kind of funky looking symbols. Those like kind of division signs or percentage signs, however you're seeing them. All that means is that you repeat the previous measure. And I should also probably follow up on what is a measure in case that is not clear to any of you. The measure is whatever is between the 2 vertical lines. So if you look at where it says E minor, that kind of box is 1 measure. So in total, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14 measures in this form. This is what we call a form, this whole cycle. It's going to basically repeat throughout the song. So 1 time through is sometimes called a chorus. But if someone asks you, what's the form of Grandma's Hands by Bill Withers, you can say, it's 14 bars. And then you can show them this chart. So yeah, we have E minor, and then 2 more measures where we are repeating E minor. So 3 measures of E minor. And then we go to our B7. Oh, I should also say that in each measure is 4 beats. That's very important. Sorry. Good detail to know. So we have 3 measures of E minor, 4 beats each, then 1 measure of B7. Then we go back to E minor for 2 measures. And then we alternate between B7 and A7 1, 2, 3 times. So 6 measures total. And then you go back to E minor for 2 measures. Also, just a little bit of vocabulary, the B7 to A7 part, that's what we call a turnaround. If you're playing with someone, you'll probably hear them say that word. A turnaround usually just means the end of the form, chorus, cycle, whatever you want to call it, because you are literally turning around back to the beginning. And turnarounds can sound different. This is a very common sound, this B7 chord. And you can hear that like this, and we'll get into why again in some later lessons, but this sound, it's very unbalanced. That's one thing you want to know right off the bat, is that it's unstable. It does not want to stay where it is. It wants to go. It wants to go there or there. B7 moves to E minor, or to just E. If you take anything away from this lesson, if it's that, I'll be very happy. So let's look at the form again, and I'm going to just play this through once or twice. And I think that being able to sort of keep track of a form in your head mentally is a really awesome skill to start developing early on in your guitar playing. Because yeah, just like keeping track of cycles like this as you play while you're thinking about your right hand, your left hand, your posture, your wrist, all that stuff. Being able to multitask like that is really, it's what being a musician is, or a big part of it. So let's take a quick crack at it. I'm going to play this nice and slow. I'm going to use my clock again for the beat, which is actually pretty close to the actual tempo of the song, so that works out perfectly. Thank you, clock. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the third measure. Going to B7. 3, 4. Back to E minor. Here's the turnaround to A7. One more. And do it one more time. Going to B7. Turn around again. And now we're back to E minor. And if you were trying to play along with this, or really paying attention and counting, you will notice that I made a very interesting mistake the first time I played through the chorus. In the turnaround, I played each B7 and A7 for only 2 beats instead of 4, which is my fault. I went into what we call double time there. So if you were following along and you actually heard what I was doing and were able to roll with it, that is awesome. That means you have a very good ear and were paying more attention than I was. And if you didn't, that's okay, my fault. So yeah, if you are looking for something to play along with for this chord progression, I would either recommend my second chorus on that, or even better, the song itself, which you can find on any music sharing platform. And I think that about covers it. That's Bill Withers, Grandma's Hands, amazing song. You should check out that and everything else that he wrote in his lifetime.
Very cool. Yeah, so if you're following along there, that's a really wonderful progression that you went through to like beginners progression. And you, just like in the Real Brave method, you were able to say like, this is a tune that I like, I want to share it with you. And you know, I was just watching and just amazed by it because it is a great song. It's wonderful. And then you broke it
so
down.
good.
It's so like with the method, we broke it down into simple parts. We used the chords, some of the theory. You talked about some of the history behind it, which was fascinating. I got to use some of my props, and you know, like this. So
That's a good prop.
anyway, so this has been Guitar 4 with Nick here, and it's been great having you. Every single week we're doing this. We got a bunch more to go. Free lessons here on Real Brave on the Real Brave page on Facebook. They're all going in Practice Pad. What is Practice Pad? You're probably asking. Well, that's our online resource, our online lesson portal. Basically, all the lessons are in there. You check it out. Sign up at practice-pad.com. We have our own video portal and teaching apps. Nick, it's been great seeing you today. Thanks for doing this, and we'll see you next time.
Pleasure as always. Thank you very much.